his rhetoric, as ever, does not match the reality. And to hear him talk of love of the armed forces when he has decimated the Russian armed forces without equipping them or organizing them properly, well, what a terrible leader he is.
William, with your former foreign secretary hat on, do you feel where does Putin go next? There's a slight feeling from what Mark was saying and what we've been observing that the sell he needs to make this is a long haul. This is a long Second World War martyrdom style conflict that he's got to get his people willing to back for potentially years to come.
Well, you would think so. I mean, that appears to be his military strategy. If there is really a military strategy in Russia, it is a long war of attrition. Look at all the lives that have been lost in their efforts to take Bakhmut over the last few months without actually gaining the whole of that town. It's a long war of attrition from the Russian point of view, but that's not his rhetoric today. It is. We just heard that the West is at breaking point. So he's still trying to kid people in Russia that, well, this would be over soon if the Russians keep going. And it doesn't look to me like the West is at breaking point. Far from it. I think there's greater determination than ever to support Ukraine and among Ukrainians to win the war. So his rhetoric, as ever, does not match the reality. And to hear him talk of love of the armed forces when he has decimated the Russian armed forces without equipping them or organizing them properly, well, what a terrible leader he is.
Are you surprised just finding that it's amazing that the culture war, the idea of sort of wokeism, has somehow managed to get itself into the rhetoric of the Russian leader? That's an extraordinary thing to pause and think about, of the sort of the things he can mention when it comes to the West. The concept of wokeism is sort of something he mentions. That's extraordinary when you pause to think about it, William.
Well, he's always been, or for many years, he's been pouring scorn on, the weaknesses of Western democracy, and how we are fickle and weak and we don't uphold, conservative social attitudes anymore. So this has been part of his critique for some years. He's trying to show people they're under threat in some way in Russia, that they'd all have to turn into our society if they didn't win his war. So I suppose it is extraordinary, but it's part of a regular theme for him, that there's a basic weakness and immorality to the Western world. He sees the world very differently from us.